One of the most important stories in tech today, obviously. Julia is going to break down what we knew from the quarter and what they're saying about the current one. Hey, Julia.
Well, Carl, Netflix's results show the ongoing impact of COVID. Far lower than expected user growth shows that the user surge we saw last year was pulling forward growth that the company could have seen this year. And that fewer new shows this past quarter due to COVID-related production delays boosted the bottom line in the quarter, but also depressed user growth. Now, take a look at this chart of user growth over the past year and a quarter. Now, the first quarter of last year, the company added a record 15.8 million subscribers, then 10 million subscribers in the second quarter of last year. Now, in the first quarter of this year, the company added fewer than 4 million subscribers and forecasts the addition of just 1 million subscribers in the second quarter. Also, look at the domestic market and how that is maturing. Now, this was the third straight quarter of under 1 million net additions in between the U.S. and Canada. Now, this all just points to how important international markets are for Netflix's growth going forward, and also how important it is that the company keep churning out more hits. That's why the company is spending $17 billion on content this year. That's up from just under $12 billion last year and about $14 billion in 2019. Now, the company says it expects growth to accelerate in the second half when it comes to those subscriber numbers as it launches more series and original movies, Carl. But the analysts are still optimistic. I have to note that about 3/4 of analysts still have a buy or overweight rating on the stock.
Yep, and we're going to talk to one in a minute. I see Stifel went to a buy. You know, yesterday at this time, Julia, we talked about going into the print with some pretty muted expectations. We talked about potentially a crackdown on password sharing, which apparently Reed Hastings has very little interest in.
I wouldn't say he has little interest in it. I would say that they want to be careful about cracking down on password sharing. They were asked a question about what they're planning to do about password sharing, and they said they didn't want to be seen as turning the screws on people who use the service, but at the same time, they want to make sure that people who are watching are paying. So I think we might see some more options in terms of maybe they'll offer an additional stream or two if you pay for the middle tier of Netflix, which now offers 4 streams. But I think they want to tread carefully here because they don't want to alienate people who maybe they'd like to rather convert them to being subscribers rather than sending them over to the competition entirely.
Right. Julia, you mentioned that content spend. It seems like every year we see these huge jumps. How important do you think profitability is to Wall Street versus those subscriber numbers, which were so focused on? I mean, earlier, Netflix said that it expects to break even on a cash flow basis this year. Is that still going to be key for the street?
Look, I think this is a company that's very much in growth mode. There was a big earnings beat this past quarter, but I think the fact that the company did give that guidance for that cash flow break even, I think that's something that Wall Street's going to be focused on. But this is a company with massive international potential. Yes, we are seeing that domestic growth slow, but the company has pointed out that it has less than 10% of total video subscribers in this space. So there is so much room to grow, especially overseas. Here, the market is more saturated. But I think that's where they're going to be investing their resources in terms of original content, in terms of marketing, really getting the word out in these markets, including Asia as well as Europe. So a lot of potential internationally. And this is just being, really treated as a growth opportunity still, especially by all these analysts, including one you have coming up.